Hello, my Nakamatachi, this is JoyGirl, back from a break with chapter 1048. Now, I hope all of you guys kept well and sane during the chapter break because I know how rough these can get. Although in saying that, if you are subscribed to my channel, then this should have been a lot easier for you because I obviously kept you updated with regular One Piece discussions, which is my way of making a shameless plug to any newcomers or oldcomers who haven't subscribed to my channel. Please consider doing so because I do provide regular One Piece discussions. I assure you this is a very mutually beneficial relationship, which is more than I can say for the ever increasingly souring relationship between the Vince Smoke and the Charlotte families. Because it seems like escapades continue, and apparently injuries also continue, because I found it quite amusing to see Cracker still all bandaged up. Now I have to say that my bet for those mysterious silhouettes that we saw from a couple of chapters ago, I thought those were the shadows of Vince Smoke, Judge, and Reiju, but I have to say that I like the idea of it being Ichiji even more because it plays on this idea of, this nice shared sibling bond. Even if that bond is just forged by a shared desire to brutalize others. Although in saying that, I suppose we still can't be sure that that is indeed Reiju and Ichiji because it could just be a speculation on Brulee's part. But in any case, please let me know your speculations on who these figures are by leaving a comment below, and in the meantime, we shall get on to the actual chapter itself. And I have to say that chapter 1048 was a very solid chapter. Now you may be feeling a case of deja vu. I mean, it is the third chapter in a row where we end with what you may think is an anticlimactic battle between Luffy and Kaido, ending the chapter with what seems to be Luffy preparing yet another attack. And yes, the flashback that we saw, which took up a large chunk of this chapter, was essentially just filling in pieces of a story that we already know, that we've already seen before. But still, I do think that this chapter was a necessary inclusion, especially from an emotional standpoint. So personally, I found this chapter to be a very classic, well done, setup chapter. One that was orchestrated and crafted quite well, and one that is necessary to move us along into what now must be the final moments of this battle, whilst also closing up some storylines. So let's start there, and let's close up Orochi's storyline, and for good. And this is as much a plea to Oda as it is my interpretation of the developments in this chapter. Because obviously we finally see Denjiro, who, as was expected, came in the nick of time to save Hiyori and slice off Orochi's head, Orochi's last remaining head, which I do think means that this should be the end for Orochi, that despicable man, but I do understand the apprehension that this may not actually be over completely because we never really know with Oda and we rarely ever get true deaths. And also, to be fair, we didn't get that narration box confirming the end of Orochi. Although I suppose the lack of a narration box may just have been more of a reflection of how unimportant even the narrator finds Orochi and how sick of everyone is with Orochi. But personally, I have to say that I don't necessarily care whether Orochi is actually dead or not. I just want this portion of the arc to be closed off and to be over now. But in saying that, I still did really enjoy a lot of the key moments, the key scenes of this segment. I mean, especially that last panel of Denjiro saving Hiyori and killing Orochi was just such a beautiful parallel to what we saw earlier in the arc, with Denjiro as Kiyoshiro actually killing or fake killing Hiyori as Komurasaki. Because everything has changed now, and both Hiyori and Denjiro are out in the open, able to be their true selves, no longer hiding their identity. And Denjiro was able to do what I'm sure he has been wanting, just aching to do for the last 20 years, and kill that despicable vermin that is Orochi. Which, on that note, that word vermin, something that we see throughout this chapter, throughout the extended flashback, is that we see Orochi call out multiple insults to the Wano citizens, to the Wano samurais, the scabbards. He's calling them vermin, pests, weaklings, gluttonous fools, which is of course greatly ironic because these are all words, all adjectives that really aptly fit Orochi himself. So seeing Orochi use these words so flippantly and insulting others just really made my blood boil. And I have to say that is incredible writing and manipulation of Orochi's dialogue from Oda to make me feel this way and evoke such strong emotions, because of course that only made Denjiro slicing off Orochi all that more satisfying. But that flashback also served multiple purposes, especially in fleshing out all the antagonists. This time we're looking at Kaido, because I found the portrayal of Kaido in this chapter, and especially in this extended flashback, really intriguing for Kaido's character. In the past, I think I've always viewed Orochi to be the more despicable, detestable character, the really cunning and sly, the truly revolting antagonist. Kaido, on the other hand, felt almost respectable at certain times and in some ways, limited ways. And since Oda started to tease out more of Kaido's backstory, we got the feeling that Kaido was a character that we knew we would one day somewhat empathize with him. But then in this chapter, Oda really plunged Kaido into the darkness and the evil in both a symbolic and literal way. Seeing Kaido just mercilessly attack innocent civilians really portrayed him to be like a true dark villain. And then also, Oda literally painted him in the darkness, or at least drew him in the darkness, with the dark shading really embodying the evil and the darkness of his villainy. And something really interesting that Oda did in his portrayal of Kaido and Orochi is that Kaido, in his blazing drum form, which I have to say does look quite sick, but also, that dark shading, those dark colorings actually made him really resemble Orochi in his dark serpent form. Even in their human forms during the flashback, we get these two panels which make it seem like Kaido and Orochi are standing side by side, almost as if their arms are locked, or as if they have their arms on each other's shoulders. Almost resembles the drunken Kaido and Big Mom who were celebrating and rejoicing and having fun with each other when they decided to team up. Although they don't have that same gleeful expression, we see Kaido and Orochi seeming very buddy-buddy with each other. And with this portrayal of Kaido alongside the really dark undertones of this flashback, where we get yet another really heartbreaking, suggestive scene of a noose suggesting that someone committed suicide rather than having to suffer through the hell that Kaido created, all of this really established Kaido as a true villain, like a real force of evil. And I think that is what this chapter did so well. It set up exactly what is needed for Wano to be saved, to get rid of Orochi and then to defeat Kaido so that the citizens of Wano can finally experience the taste of freedom, the sweet taste of clean water and proper food. And Oda again used the flower capital and the citizens to really effectively seed that emotional impact. The wishes of the Wano citizens to be free from Orochi, to be free from the hell that Kaido has made of their home, and this to be encapsulated and shown through those lanterns was just such a really poignant moment. And it also continues to amp us up for that very satisfying moment when we will finally see all of this achieved, but also for before then, for Momonosuke's shining moment. Because the reminder of the Wano citizens at Flower Capital is just so intricately tied in with Momonosuke's storyline in this arc. You know, the task that he faces to save the Flower Capital, which was again something that we were reminded of in this chapter. And so Oda continues to build up to this moment and build up the tension. And while these scenes or this flashback may not seem so groundbreaking or hugely noteworthy reveals right now, I can really feel Oda just drumming in the emotional groundwork to show us how important this battle is for Wano, to really amp us up for that payoff that will surely follow. Which then takes us to the fight between Kaido and Luffy, where we again see another repetition of some similar scenes. I can understand why some people are dissatisfied about the repetition of us seeing Luffy prepare for another attack at the end of the chapter, and then the next chapter showing us the clash between Luffy and Kaido, which doesn't really have huge impacts or the fight really progressing or going anywhere. Or so it seems. I have to say that I did find the fighting in this chapter quite interesting, and especially one piece of dialogue. When Kaido accepts Luffy's attack and challenges him by saying that he will face that attack head on, I have to ask, Was this simply showing us Kaido's overconfidence, knowing that he can just tank this attack? Or was it showing us Kaido's hope that this attack will finally be the one and finally bring him down because he's testing Luffy and challenging Luffy and his strength to assess how truly worthy or valuable Luffy actually is? Either way, I found this small piece of dialogue so interesting and so intriguing in further fleshing out Kaido's characterization as an antagonist. And as dark and as evil Oda made him out to be in this chapter, I do think that this will be flipped on its head when we do finally see Kaido's flashback. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find a very detailed, comprehensive explanation as to the story of the flaming drum. All I was able to find is that it's a poignant story, one that is quite comical but also has elements of melancholy, that it's a story about a dusty drum which ends up actually being a very valuable piece of art. But something that I was able to find out during my research is that the rakugo is a style of Japanese art and entertainment where it's just one person sitting on stage playing all the parts of all the different characters to tell a story. And I think if I was to really read into it, this could be a really great representation of Kaido as a character, an individual who is just so intricately nuanced and complex, as someone who really embodies all of these different, conflicting, contradictory values and characteristics as a real big jumble of mess. And this is something that we're going to find out as his characterization gets further fleshed out through his flashback. But in the meantime and for now, Oda plays on another element of symbolism, because something that is emphasized so heavily in this chapter, again, is the presentation of Kaido, current Kaido, as this really dark figure. And in contrast, Luffy as this beaming source of light. Not only does Oda make a reference to Hanuman, the Hindu deity, in reference to Luffy, which I have to say did make me chuckle, because it's almost as if Oda was listening in on the great hype that surrounded the Hanuman theory before Luffy's Gear 5th form was revealed and the true nature of Luffy's devil fruit was revealed. And it's like as if Oda is saying, I know that this is what some of you wanted and expected, I'll give it to you in another way. But also, if we take into account who Hanuman is and who he represents, I love that Oda is portraying Luffy as this really enlightened being. Quite literally, in many panels in this chapter, the embodiment, the literal embodiment of light. You know, even his Kong fist, which we usually seen, drawn black, drawn dark. In this chapter, we actually see his fist illuminated in light, especially when he's punching Kaido, almost as if to say that Luffy is bringing light to Kaido, which is also an idea that is shown through the recurring theme of fire and flames in this chapter, because fire and flames are usually representative and symbolic of the idea of renewal and restoration or rebirth. And with both Kaido and Luffy being presented with this idea of flames, of burning, of fire in this chapter, it's as if Oda is saying that Luffy's flames, his fire, will eventually win, and it's Luffy's flames that will ultimately renew Kaido. And in my opinion, I think this idea was perhaps best shown through one of the last panels in this chapter, where we see Luffy preparing his next attack. And it's a beautiful panel where Luffy's attack is completely illuminated in white, a great ball of light behind him. And with his Haki lightning emanating from the attack, it almost looks like as if Luffy is being illuminated by the sun and the sun's rays behind him. And so obviously this has me thinking along the lines of Luffy bringing the light, the dawn to Wano, and not only to Wano but also to Kaido. Because by now you guys should already know my thoughts on the ideological battle between Luffy and Kaido, which I think is just going to be so important in this fight, and how this ideological, this war of values will be the one that is really important, how it's really going to affect Kaido. And if you don't already know my thoughts on that, then please, I do suggest that you watch these videos. In the meantime, please join me as we celebrate and congratulate the winners of our Joy Fleet Discord artwork competition, where the theme was to draw how Luffy was going to beat Kaido. And Kishan entered two very amusing drawings, both of which were very funny in their own unique ways, and they really did make me giggle. And this flair for a comedic ending seemed to be quite the theme in this artwork competition, because Mr. Melancholy also submitted a very similarly cute and very comical drawing of Kaido's sausage fingers really struggling with Jenga. So thank you to both of our very talented participants, and thank you for listening to my thoughts on chapter 1048. I would now love to hear your thoughts on the chapter, so please do let me know by leaving a comment below. Don't forget to like and share the video. Please do subscribe if you'd like more One Piece discussions. You can also join our Joyfleet Discord server or even become a Patreon member. And I want to thank all our patrons for help supporting the channel. This is JoyGirl, and I'll see you again soon.